New developments in a massive Taylor Swift ticket fraud investigation.
Dozens of disappointed fans left out of her shows. The GTA woman accused of scamming them has now been charged. Good afternoon. Swift's six-night engagement in Toronto may be over, but the sting of fans scammed out of tickets is still being felt. Today,
Toronto police announcing the arrest of a woman accused of selling tickets on Facebook Marketplace, tickets that investigators say were never delivered. CTV's Sean Leathong brought us the story from heartbroken fans and continues his coverage today. Big development, Sean.
It certainly is, Michelle and Nathan. Denise Teesor of Burlington is facing over 30 charges in relation to this investigation. Now, we first brought you this story a week ago, but it dates back much farther than that. Some of these people who believed to have been in contact with Denise Teesor bought tickets as far back as August of 2023. Once they had transferred the money, they were told that they would receive the tickets just about 48 hours before the concert. Now, when Taylor Swift came to Toronto in the middle of November, many of these people who thought they had tickets quickly found out those tickets were never there. A lot of them came together and created a group, and they were able to tally some of the tickets that had been promised but not delivered. They got to the point where over 100 people had been affected. They said over 400 tickets had been promised and not delivered, and they tallied those at about $300,000. Now, last week, we visited Denise Teesor's home to ask her and see if she wanted to tell her side of the story. She did not want to talk to us, and at this point, we find out that Toronto police have made this arrest. We talked to Toronto police today. Here's what they had to say.
It's alleged that she was on social media platforms such as Facebook Marketplace, using an alias, Denise Blackhawk, and offering tickets for the Taylor Swift concert in Toronto. The Toronto police do believe that there may be more victims out there, and we are working with Halton Regional Police Service on this ongoing investigation.
Over $5,000, possession of property attained by crime, over $5,000, 32 counts of fraud under $5,000, and 32 counts of possession of property obtained by crime under $5,000. We have also contacted Halton Police to see if there's any update from their end of the investigation. They said so far there is no update, and they will only speak on the investigation when an update does come. Now, police, as you heard, believe there may be more victims from around the GTA, and they're urging many more people to come forward because, as Toronto police had said, so far by their tally, there are $70,000 in fraudulent tickets that have been sold. But we talked about in our report they could be as high as $300,000. So they're asking anybody who has not made a report to please make a police report. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. There's a shooting investigation underway in Etobicoke. A man was found with a gunshot wound near Dixon and Martin Grove just before 7 this morning. Police say he was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police closed Dixon Road and Martin Grove for their investigation. No word on any suspects.
We turn to the investigation into a late-night crash involving a stolen vehicle in Scarborough.
6 people were injured, some of them teenagers. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us live from the scene at Brimley and Eglinton. Beth.
Nathan, the vehicles involved in this crash have been cleared away, but the investigation by the SIU is still very much underway. I'm going to give you a look now where the crash ended, just near this bus shelter, and thankfully no one was inside at the time. There is still debris on the ground from this crash, and just all around this bus shelter there is shattered glass. The crash between the stolen grey Honda and white Audi injured 6 people, and the role Toronto police has in the collision is under investigation. It happened around 10:30 Monday night in the intersection of Brimley and Eglinton in Scarborough. In the immediate lead up to the crash, the SIU says officers were doing traffic enforcement when they observed the grey Honda speeding and followed it. The SIU says the grey Honda struck the white Audi before driving into a vacant bus shelter. 4 people in the Honda were transported to hospital and 2 from the Audi, all for assessment. As investigators work the scene, the intersection remained shut overnight and into the morning rush, with the vehicles not towed away until the morning. Eglinton reopened to traffic shortly after 7 in the morning, and Brimley reopened after 9 in the morning. Toronto police say 4 people have been arrested, 2 males and 2 females. Initially, they were rushed to hospital with serious injuries. Anyone with information, video, or photos is asked to contact the SIU. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Police are appealing for witnesses following a serious crash in Newmarket. This happened shortly before 3 at Davis Drive and Warden Avenue. York police say 5 vehicles were involved, including a dump truck, which investigators believe was traveling in the wrong direction. 3 people were taken to hospital, 1 with life-altering injuries. Police are asking anyone with dash camera footage to come forward.
And Toronto police have opened a new collision reporting center dedicated to cyclists and pedestrians. Is located in the Traffic Services Unit at 350 Dover Court Road. Police want to encourage anyone involved in a collision to report it. They hope to expand data collection and help inform decisions to make the city safer. The new center will be open Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Still to come this noon hour, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is vowing to hit Canada, Mexico, and China with a new tariff on the first day he's back in office. The potential impact and reaction from Queen's Park and Ottawa coming up.
More news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Cloudy, but a few sunny breaks. Not as cool as yesterday, so maybe no need for the heavy jacket, but still the need to dress warm, especially if you're going to be outside for a while. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Jess.
Hey, and that's because of the wind, Nathan. It is a gusty day. So you're right, it is mild out there. We're still sitting just above seasonal, but we have a gusty westerly wind that carries us right throughout the day, so it'll add that bit of freshness. We're not done with the chance of some spotty showers as we head into that midpoint of our afternoon. Not a wash of a day by any means, but a good idea to at least keep some waterproof gear handy, the jacket, the umbrella, right? Temperature-wise, it is still on the positive side. We're still sitting fairly seasonal for this point of the day, this time of year, and that doesn't change until we get into the day tomorrow, and then Thursday things really start to cool down. Right now towards the islands a little warmer but cloudy. They're at 7 degrees. Through Pearson a few light showers, but that westerly wind gusty right throughout. Into this afternoon we'll sit again very seasonal point right around 7 degrees. That passing shower doesn't last long, but it could feel a little more intense thanks to all of that wind. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long range forecast, but for now I'll send things back over to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. A statement by U.S. President Donald Trump on social media has kicked off a political firestorm on this side of the border.
Trump has vowed to impose a 25% tariff on all products from Canada and Mexico on his first day in office. No surprise, the promise has politicians from all levels of government responding. Our Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with all the details. Siobhan.
Well, this possibility has set off real anxiety here at Queen's Park and on Parliament Hill. Premier Doug Ford calls this the greatest threat from an American administration he can remember. You could really see the worry on Doug Ford's face as he addressed reporters earlier this morning. He tried to appeal directly to the incoming president, saying a 25% tariff on all Canadian products wouldn't only be devastating on this side of the border, saying it would also hurt Americans and the U.S. economy. The auto sector, a special area of focus because of how connected it is, both on the U.S. and Canadian side. Donald Trump has warned that these tariffs are coming for Canada and Mexico until the flow of illegal migrants and drugs over the border stops. While Ford believes there is more Canada can do to tighten up the border, he is frustrated.
What I found unfair about the comments is to compare us to Mexico. And I can tell you, Canada is no Mexico. We do approximately, just Ontario alone, $500 billion of two-way trade. I found his comments unfair. I found them insulting. It's like a family member stabbing you right in the heart.
This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do. One of the really important things is that we be all pulling together on this. The Team Canada approach is what works.
The Prime Minister says that's why he reached out to premiers, including Doug Ford, last night. So Trudeau and all of the country's premiers will have a virtual meeting at 5 p.m. tomorrow to discuss strategy. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Donald Trump says the tariffs are intended to crack down on the movement of drugs and illegal immigration across the border. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister reacted in Italy, where she's attending a G7 meeting.
I think when it comes to what the President announced yesterday, I think it is important that we bear in mind that the security of our border is something that is important for Canada and of course for the US. And we need to make sure that when it comes to migration, that we have a safe border. It is, of course, in the interests of the U.S. to have a safe border, but it is in our fundamental interests too. And you heard also the Minister of Immigration beforehand saying that not everybody was welcome to Canada. So I think that Canadians expect us to do the work, to do the job on protecting our border. That's exactly what we're doing, and we will work with the upcoming administration on this issue.
In Ottawa, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre also weighed in this morning.
The United States is the greatest economic and military superpower in the history of the world, and they are our neighbor. The U.S. is responsible for $1.2 trillion of our trade. We trade almost twice as much with the Americans as we trade with the rest of the world combined. Trade with the U.S. is 40% of our economy. President Trump yesterday made an unjustified threat of a 25% tariff on our already weak and shrinking economy. Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland were surprised, amazingly. Everyone else knew something like this could be coming because President Trump had been talking about it for years on the campaign trail. Yet 20 days ago, Chrystia Freeland said, "Don't worry, Canada will be fine." Apparently, neither she nor Justin Trudeau were following what the incoming president was saying.
Meanwhile, Mexico is suggesting it could retaliate after also being threatened with 25% tariffs. President Claudia Sheinbaum said today she's willing to engage in talks, but insists her country has suffered from an influx of weapons smuggled in from the U.S. and says the flow of drugs is a problem of public health and consumption in the United States. She also says her country has done a lot to stem the flow of migrants.
The Ford government has passed a controversial bill that would see the removal of bike lanes from 3 major streets in Toronto.
The ayes being 66 and the nays being 27, I declare the motion carried.
Bill 212 aims to address congestion by removing separated lanes on Bloor, Yonge, and University. It would also require cities to get permission to install bike lanes that would remove a lane of traffic. Cycling advocates say the change will make the roads less safe. Bill 212 blocks cyclists or their families from suing the province if they're injured or killed after the bike lanes are removed. The legislation would also speed up construction of priority highways, including the 413 and Bradford bypass. Lawyer David Shelnut questions Premier Ford's arguments for removing bike lanes.
Just before the amendments were leaked on Thursday, another report was leaked, that internal document to the government from members within their own party, experts within the government, to say, hey, this plan to remove bike lanes will not reduce congestion, it will make it worse. So he's selling people that he's trying to reduce congestion, but the reality is it's going to just make things way worse in the city of Toronto. And that's not even to mention the huge cost to taxpayers that's going to result from this. Forget the blood and mayhem of people getting killed on our streets, but this is going to cost a huge amount of money.
The Premier posted on social media shortly after the bill passed, quote, "We promise to get drivers out of gridlock by bringing sanity back to bike lane decisions, and we're getting it done." To the effort to keep air travel moving when the wintry weather hits.
Pearson Airport is rolling out its game plan to clear the runways and keep planes on time and ready for takeoff. CTV's Rahim Ladani joins us live with the details. Rahim.
Nathan and Michelle, good afternoon. We're at Pearson International's airport maintenance facility. This is where they store all of their snow clearing equipment, including this gigantic snow blower. It has 1,500 horsepower and can shoot snow 100 feet in the air. This is one of the airport's 40 new pieces of equipment that they've acquired over the past 2 years. In total, the airport has 161 pieces of snow clearing and de-icing equipment. Officials tell us, yes, we have not had a major snowfall event yet, but when it does happen, they'll be prepared with both their equipment and their staff. Take a listen to what officials had to tell us this morning.
I think it's really looking at the weather patterns. The last couple of years, we've had a little bit, as we were mentioning earlier, a little bit heavier, wetter snow, more snow at once. which is much harder for us to clear. So we have upped our staffing levels a little bit and also made those purchases on those big snow blowers and some of our large loaders, you can see. More pushing power, more blowing power to try to put up with that 20 centimeter wet snow event, which is really the most difficult thing we get here. In the way of staffing, we basically call everybody in for anything over 5-6 centimeters. Everybody's kind of on call and ready to go.
Now behind me, you can see a PSB. That's a plower, sweeper, blower, all in one. And when there's snow on the ground, 2 of these take to the runway and clear the snow right away. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
You're rocking that safety vest. Thank you, Raheem. Niagara Regional Police have charged 3 people in connection with a fatal industrial fire nearly 2 years ago. A man in his 30s was injured in the massive fire and explosions at a hazardous materials company in St. Catharines back in January of 2023. He later died in hospital. Police now say 2 people from Petersburg and 1 person from Scotland, Ontario, have been charged with criminal negligence causing death and arson by negligence.
In Quebec, a parole hearing has begun for Paul Bernardo. The killer is serving a life sentence for the kidnapping, sexual assault, and murder of Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey in the early 1990s. Family members of the 2 teenagers are delivering victim impact statements and are asking the parole board to keep Bernardo behind bars. He's been denied parole twice before. Bernardo was also convicted of manslaughter in the death of his then-wife Carla Homoko's sister, Tammy.
The polls are open in Nova Scotia, where voters are choosing their next provincial government. Tim Houston and his Progressive Conservatives are seeking a second consecutive majority mandate. The Tory leader launched the snap election on October 27th, ignoring his government's election law, which set a fixed election date of July 15th of 2025. Houston said he called an early election to get a stronger mandate to stand up to the federal government on such things as carbon pricing. Polls have pointed towards a return to power for the Tories, with the NDP and Liberals in a close race for second.
The world is watching amid reports Israel and Hezbollah are moving closer to a potential ceasefire deal. But Israeli airstrikes pounded Beirut earlier today. Israel says part of its strikes hit 20 targets in the Lebanese capital. A separate attack in southern Lebanon left rescue workers digging through the rubble to search for any casualties. The latest strikes happen as reports say a ceasefire declaration could be announced today. Israel's security cabinet was scheduled to vote on a U.S. brokered deal. Among the issues that remain is an Israeli demand to reserve the right to act if Hezbollah violates its obligations under any ceasefire. And for more on these reports that a ceasefire may be close, we're joined by CTV's Scott Hurst. Scott, so what's the latest development in this possible ceasefire?
Nathan, despite the strikes in Beirut throughout the day, the Israeli security cabinet is meeting right now discussing the possibility of this ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah. And we're also learning that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will deliver a televised address at the top of the hour. That is 8 o'clock local time in Israel. That is 1 o'clock Eastern time here in the Eastern time zone. And this would be quite a diplomatic feat to end at least one conflict in the Middle East, or pause hostilities for the time being to potentially allow for more diplomacy. So let's run through some of the proposals on the table. And this would begin with an initial 2-month ceasefire that some hope can form the basis of more lasting peace in the region, during which Israeli forces would withdraw from Lebanon. Hezbollah would end its armed presence along the southern border, and that would be accompanied by an influx of thousands of more Lebanese army troops. They would patrol the border area along with an existing U.S. peacekeeping force in the region. So those are the proposals on the table. It would begin with a 2-month, 60-day ceasefire between Israel and the Lebanese Hezbollah militant group. Of course, they've been exchanging fire for many months now. Hezbollah began attacking Israel a day after Hamas's attack on Israel, setting off more than a year of fighting, Nathan.
And Scott, what are the next steps?
The next steps is to get this across the line. Of course, there are still some issues that are to be resolved. And as we've been seeing and as you've been reporting, the Israeli army has been attacking Hezbollah targets in the Lebanese capital on quite a large scale leading up to this, the vote by the Israeli Security Cabinet. And of course, between Israel and Hezbollah, as they continue to trade fire, one misstep could upend these talks. And as we've seen for quite some time now, that these talks are very fraught, and one misstep, of course, could really alter the way that these talks go. And so it has been a quite intensive negotiation. This is a U.S. and French brokered ceasefire deal that would be between Israel and Lebanon, so that Hezbollah would not continue to attack Israel. And this would be a 2-month ceasefire to begin, with the possibility that this could create the groundwork for a more lasting peace, Nathan.
And will this have any impact on Israel's incursion into Gaza?
Specifically at this time, nothing to do with this ceasefire deal, but we've been hearing from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and others that there is a hope that this could create some diplomacy in the region, and that more effort could potentially go to ongoing diplomacy to end the conflict between Israel, the conflict in Gaza with Israel and Hamas. But of course, that's not just a ceasefire deal in Gaza. There's also hostage negotiations as well, and that is vital to Israel and its demands. So at this time, specifically, this ceasefire deal is between Israel and Hezbollah. But could it potentially create more diplomacy in the region? That is at least the hope amongst the international community.
All right, the latest on that possible ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thanks, Nathan.
Back here at home, breaking news this noon hour. The CTV News chopper is over the scene of an industrial accident near the waterfront. We're told a construction worker became injured in an open pit and now needs to be extricated in order to get this individual out. There's no word on the extent of the injuries, but emergency crews are on the scene to conduct a rescue operation. This is on Richardson Street near Queens Quay and Lower Jarvis. We will continue to follow this developing story. The Ukrainian Air Force says Russia launched 188 drones against most regions of the country. The nighttime attacks were described as a record number of drones deployed in a single strike. Ukraine says most of the weapons were intercepted, but apartment buildings and critical infrastructure were damaged. That included the national power grid, but no casualties were immediately reported in the 17 targeted regions. Jess.
We are settling into a much more seasonal trend as we round out the month of November, and we're holding on to active weather throughout the week. Not consistent all day, every day, but just be prepared. Keep the jacket with you, and maybe the umbrella, and maybe the rain boots. We're also going to see the potential of some light flurries later on this week, but today the wind is the bigger issue. We're looking at light showers this afternoon, a daytime high of 7 degrees with those wind gusts upwards of 60 kilometers an hour, and the sunset 4:43 p.m. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including breaking down the chance of some wintry weather later this week.
All right, still cloudy out there, a little bit of sunshine, but mainly clouds, and maybe not time for the big, thick, heavy winter jacket, but some kind of jacket.
You need it. I think the wind today really adds that added bit of chill, and then, some wetness with the rain and maybe flurries.
Later on this week, temperatures are going to drop pretty dramatically as we head in towards the end of the week. And when you have that precipitation falling through those colder layers, it goes from rain to snow very easily. But when the wind gets up that little, gap in your jacket, it is humbling. So make sure you layer up accordingly, especially if you work outside or you're going to spend some time outdoors. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Now, not a terrible start to the day. You can see, though, where the clouds were kind of closing in there, and on the very edge, we could still see just a hint of sunshine early on this morning. The good news is, with the weather changing, at least for today, we're staying on the relatively mild side, very seasonal, but that doesn't last very long, so I guess enjoy it while you can before we see more traditional fall and maybe wintry weather make its way in. For now, though, it's just a little light rain out there, and the wind, those gusts upwards of 60 kilometers an hour throughout the day, and temperature-wise, it's not bad. I've seen worse. We're at 5 degrees right now here in the city, 6 through Windsor, 1 in Ottawa, Northern Ontario, a little cooler, and they've already seen a blast of wintry weather. For us, we're holding on to just spotty showers throughout the afternoon, mostly cloudy, and again, it is the wind. We're looking at a daytime high just above seasonal, sitting at 7, and everybody, for the most part, into southwestern Ontario holding on just above their seasonal averages, a little cooler and closer to where we should be out towards areas through Parry Sound and Bancroft. Into this evening, right at the freezing mark, right at that sweet spot, we should be around -2, so yes, we're still above seasonal, but the wind will again make it feel just that little bit cooler, a little bit damper out there. Watching for the chance of maybe some mixing down towards Windsor and Eastern Ontario. For us here in the GTA, likely just cloud cover. The bulk of that rain at least takes a break, takes a pause as we get through the overnight hours. But we're watching this system quite large, making its way over us, bringing in more snow in the way to areas in Eastern Ontario, Northern Ontario. For the GTA, we're seeing this fall predominantly as rain through this midpoint of our day. We get a bit of a break this evening, and then as we head into the end of the week, that's our best chance for seeing our first flurry of the season. As we head into the rest of our afternoon, though, again, there's some spotty showers. The bulk of that light flurry activity out towards Waterloo region, maybe through Orangeville. We're not talking getting out the shovel, but still it is going to impact your day. Into this evening, pretty clear though, and it's not a bad night ahead of us. Those light flurries, those bands across Georgian Bay staying far north of us, and then we get throughout our day. Honestly, not all that bad. A little bit of cloud cover, but we'll see some peaks of sun before it sets in the evening. Now, looking ahead to our Thursday, we start to see that more wintry weather pop in towards Niagara. For the GTA, the downtown core, it's falling really just as cloud cover. It's as we head in towards our Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening that we see the best chance for flurries to start to make their way in. Again, it cools down. We're seeing this kind of shift take place. You'll want to put on the heavier coat. Give yourself a little extra time for that commute, whether you're taking transit or heading out in the car. Temperature-wise, again, very seasonal to start the day. Tonight, we're holding on just above where we should be, but we're right at that sweet spot, at that freezing mark. Into our Wednesday, mostly cloudy, the same through Thursday. The chance of a rain-snow mix is really kind of for the greater Toronto area, even areas just kind of further west and east of us. But for the most part, the GTA, the downtown core, it's just a lot of cloud cover, but fairly seasonal. Friday, the best chance for those flurries are later on in the afternoon through the early evening. And then we look ahead to the weekend, that chance of flurry activity, it's not going anywhere. 3 degrees for our Saturday, just 2 on Sunday, but we are kind of making that transition into that wintry type weather, Nathan. And I don't know about you, I'm not ready for it yet.
We know winter is coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, an injured beaver is on the road to recovery after being shot with an arrow and rescued by fire crews north of Barrie. CTV's Rob Cooper has more on the efforts to save the animal.
She's the luckiest unlucky beaver I know.
The young beaver, fittingly nicknamed Lucky, is still alive after being shot with an arrow near Aurelia.
The arrow entered through the shoulder, the right shoulder, through the left scapula and came out through on the left side at the point of shoulder. So it was complete through and through.
We're just flushing the wound that the arrow went through from the top.
Today, Lucky was being re-examined by veterinarians at the Shades of Hope Wildlife Refuge in Pefferlaw, where she's receiving much-needed care. While she appears to be doing okay, she is far from out of trouble. The injured beaver was spotted in the bush a couple of weeks ago. Who shot her and why is still not known. What we do know is she spent about 2 weeks with the arrow impaled before volunteers and local firefighters were able to rescue her. They flushed out a culvert Lucky was hiding in.
We were located above the culvert in the grasses, hiding behind trees until the beaver swam out. The water level got so high that the beaver swam out the end that we were covering, and we were able to block the culvert and net the beaver.
The Severn Township Fire Department says there have been several concerns of beavers causing damage to some properties in the area over the past several weeks.
So we do understand that managing beavers can be difficult. However, we would encourage our landowners to choose legal alternatives before trying to kill our beaver or engaging in animal cruelty, which is what has happened with this animal.
Now, the beaver will continue to receive care here at Shades of Hope for the next several weeks before eventually being shipped to the Aspen Valley Wildlife Sanctuary in Muskoka for care over the winter. The goal is to release the animal back to the wild come spring. Rob Cooper, CTV News, Pefferlaw.
In Pakistan, an elephant has been reunited with her sisters after being separated 15 years ago. The elephant was transported through Karachi to the enclosure of her siblings today. An international animal welfare organization specializing in relocations came to the city to supervise the process. The elephant will now have more species-appropriate spaces, including shadowy areas and the possibility of swimming. The team hopes she'll be more fulfilled.
And listen to this. In Japan, police thought a shoe thief was on the loose at a kindergarten until a security camera caught the furry culprit in action. Watch the screen on the right there. A weasel was spotted after police installed 3 cameras inside the school. The shoes that went missing were stored in cubby holes near the door, and the animal had taken 15 of them before police were called in to investigate. 6 more were taken the following day. Weasels are apparently known to stash items. Still to come this noon hour, the holiday vibes are in full swing in malls and shopping centers. Black Friday mere days away, but are people in a spending mood? The latest check-in on consumers after the break. We are now less than a month until Christmas.
And the unofficial kickoff to the holiday spending season begins at the end of this week on Black Friday. CTV's Heather Wright has a snapshot of how much Canadians are planning to spend.
The Christmas music is playing. The wreaths are being made. The busy season for Bruno Duarte has begun.
I'd say for the next 3 weeks is our big main push for sales.
Duarte owns a flower shop in Toronto, one of many small businesses preparing for holiday shoppers, many of whom remain cautious.
Even for us, like purchasing everything from that compared to last year, it's gone up. So it's just, it's everybody's feeling the pinch.
According to a survey for the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, 46% of Canadians plan to spend less for the holidays this year than they did last. Only 8% plan to spend more.
Yeah, we're trying to stay as tight to a budget as we can, for sure.
While inflation has cooled, prices remain high for both consumers and businesses. The CFIB is encouraging people to do as much shopping at local businesses as possible.
Your dollar goes a lot further when it's spent in your local community. In fact, 66 cents on every dollar spent local stays local. That compares to only 9 cents when you're shopping at, say, Amazon.
And while Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals online are hard to miss, prices at the local shop down the road might be even better.
Go into your small business and check. I think people think that online is a lot more price competitive than it actually is. Tons of small businesses are running sales around Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday as well. It really is worth a look.
Black Friday marks the unofficial start to the shopping season. It's the day after American Thanksgiving, but because the holiday is so late this year, there are actually 5 fewer days between November 29th and Christmas Eve. A shorter shopping season, something else retailers are having to contend with. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Drake has begun legal action against Universal Music Group and Spotify. The lawsuit alleges the 2 companies conspired to falsely pump up the popularity of Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. The song attacked the Toronto rapper amid a feud between the 2 stars. Hours before filing the suit, Drake announced a tour in Australia early next year.
You hating on numbers untouchable, they got the data wrong. This is the moment I know they've been praying on.
The rapper announced the Anita Max Win Tour during a live stream Sunday night. It's set to begin February 9th, the same day as rival Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime performance. Drake says the tour will include stops in Melbourne, Sydney, and the Gold Coast, and will continue into March. It's unclear when tickets will go on sale. And Katy Perry's coming to Toronto next summer. The pop star announcing a Canadian leg of her upcoming Lifetimes tour, which is set to kick off in Vancouver in late July. Katy Perry will perform in 7 Canadian cities before hitting the stage at Scotiabank Arena on August 5th. Tickets go on sale this Friday.
Disney is out with a teaser for its latest live-action remake, Lilo and Stitch. In the 30-second spot, Stitch, the adorable blue alien, destroys an elaborate sandcastle. The voice actor who played Stitch in the 2002 animated film returns. The live-action version of Lilo and Stitch is expected to hit theaters May 23rd.
Still to come, are you in the market for a used car? If you are, be careful you don't get scammed. A new mother just bought a used van and the odometer was rolled back almost 100,000 kilometers. Pat Foran has her story coming up.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Vehicle prices have risen steadily over the past few years, which is why many people are hoping they can find a bargain.
But if you're looking for a used car, you need to make sure the kilometers you see are accurate. Tools that can roll back odometers are easily found online, and unfortunately, changing one is not hard to do. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
I panicked. I started crying. I got all sweaty.
Mackenzie Jordan of Oshawa recently had a baby, and with a growing family, she wanted a minivan. She found one for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and while the mileage was 196,000 kilometers, she thought it was a reasonable price.
Thought it was a great deal, $2,700, 6 passengers, kids all had their own seat. Didn't have to be all squeezed together.
Jordan bought the car, but she says not long after it started to have transmission issues. That's when she noticed an oil change sticker that listed a different mileage amount.
I was sitting in the car and I looked up, seen the Mr. Loop sticker, and it said $288,000.
She checked the used vehicle information package more closely, and the odometer had been rolled back 92,000 kilometers. When she messaged the seller, he wouldn't respond.
I tried contacting him. I was blocked. My partner was blocked.
We find that many vehicles sold by curbsiders actually have odometer rollback issues.
Omvic, which oversees vehicle sales in Ontario, says if you buy a used car with a rolled back odometer from a dealer, you have some protections. But in a private sale, you don't.
We do have a compensation fund, but that fund is only available to consumers who purchased a vehicle from an Omvic registered dealer. Those protections do not exist in a private sale.
To avoid odometer rollback cars, purchase a used vehicle information package and a Carfax vehicle history report. Check the seller's ID to make sure they're the lawful owner of the car. Ask for service records and have the vehicle checked by your mechanic. Jordan now worries she could soon have to spend thousands in repairs on the car.
My lights are on, my transmission light's on.
Odometer fraud is illegal, and Jordan has filed a complaint with Omvic. She says the seller continues to post other vehicles for sale on Facebook Marketplace. Pat Foran, CTV News.
More carrots have been recalled by Health Canada due to potential E. coli contamination. The affected products are 365 Whole Foods Market organic carrots distributed in BC and in Ontario. 6 different types of carrot products, including baby and petite varieties, are being recalled from the 365 brand. The previous carrot recall involved other brands of organic carrots, including Compliments and PC. To date, no reported illnesses have been associated with consuming these products in Canada.
Food Banks Mississauga and Canada Helps are putting out a call for aid on Giving Tuesday as more people struggle to make ends meet. Food Banks Mississauga says they're experiencing an unprecedented surge in demand, with 1 in 13 Mississauga residents now relying on food banks. Mississauga officially declared food insecurity an emergency earlier this month. The food bank says the fastest growing user is single adults whose rent eats up almost all of their monthly income.
In business news, Canadian stocks in the loonie fell today after fresh tariff threats by Donald Trump. Andrew Bell has the latest from BNN Bloomberg.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. Toronto's benchmark stock index slipped about 1/3% today. That's after Donald Trump threatened to slap 25% import levies on all products from Mexico and Canada. The Canadian dollar slipped, but it held above the 71-cent US mark. Shares in General Motors slid 7% amid concerns over the company's vehicle shipments from Mexico into the U.S. Automaker Stellantis was down 4%. Traders in currencies and other markets told Bloomberg that life under a second Trump presidency will be volatile. One said, quote, "The good thing is there's plenty of opportunity to make money." And finally, Air Canada shares hit their highest since 2023. Investors hope that airline sector trends, such as growing international demand, are good omens for the carrier. Stifel has a buy on the stock, but warns that a stretched Canadian consumer will weigh on the stock price. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Toronto Raptors were looking for their first road win of the season, visiting the Detroit Pistons last night, and this one came down to the wire.
Ivy with three. He's got to make a move. He does at the buzzer.
After trailing for most of the game, the Pistons scored on a last-second buzzer beater to win 102-100 and hand Toronto their second straight loss. Scotty Barnes had 29 points and 14 rebounds. The Raps are back in action Wednesday to take on the New Orleans Pelicans.
We're just days away from Toronto's Professional Women's Hockey League's home opener. The Scepters set to take the ice this Saturday. And now there is a new sculpture celebrating the league's pioneering players.
Among the hundreds of storefronts inside Toronto's Eaton Centre, there's a new display catching everyone's attention. Standing 4 feet tall and 6 feet wide, this oversized hockey helmet sculpture is called the Inaugural Six, and Brianne Douglas is the Canadian artist behind it.
This piece was a lot of hard work to make, and I think that also is reflective with the PWHL and where they have come to today. It was a lot of hard work to get here, and I want the art to reflect that story.
Douglas collaborated with the Professional Women's Hockey League to create this striking larger-than-life helmet. The sticks were gathered from each of the 6 teams and are the very ones used during the PWHL's first season.
Each stick actually has a player's name on the side of it. So every time I laid down a stick, it was like laying down a memory or a future of one of these players that are in the league. And I just think that makes it maybe one of the most special pieces I've ever made.
The PWHL is looking to build on its first season success. The league set 6 attendance records thanks to the high quality of play, while the athletes have quickly become household names at the same time, paving the way for future generations.
There's so much attention around our game, and now people are finding it normal. They're used to it. It's not just a moment anymore. It's going to be a long-term thing.
This is going to create a lot of attention. You know, there are going to be hockey people, sports people who are just wondering what that is, right? And I think that that's pretty special.
As their legacy continues to build, the sculpture is cemented and will be on display until Thursday, leading up to puck drop on the second season, November 30th.
Coming up, taking esports to the next level. The university training that's anything but textbook.
Esports are video games played in highly competitive environments.
The popularity is exploding in Canadian schools, with students at one university in New Brunswick bringing their A game. CTV's Sarah Plowman reports.
Welcome to the warm-up.
I just stretch out the hands and stuff.
A flex to the fingers, a jolt to the joints. Time to get their game face on.
This dance of being able to outdo your own opponent in a one-on-one situation.
Simon Séger and his teammate are about to battle. They'll sit, not sprint, but quick reflexes are required.
I play a lot of one-on-one games. So for me, a lot of it is mental fortitude.
It may seem like play, but this is competitive and at a high level. These players are on the Université de Moncton's esports team.
Esports is an amazing way to get into the world of competition.
And that world of competition is widening. UDM not only has an esports team, but that team now has this training room with high-tech computers and consoles. The school funds the team's travel to tournaments against other Canadian universities.
But it's really becoming a common thing. I think every university is kind of stepping towards that direction of recognizing esports as a thing, right?
They're not alone. A first for Calgary. Bow Valley College recently opened its own esports hub for competitions, innovation, and game development. All part of a booming industry that's growing in popularity.
We have coaches, we have training sessions.
And here there are tryouts. Not everyone makes the cut.
I'm looking for team synergy. How well do these people work together?
It's fun and games. Players will tell you their skills are transferable.
What this teaches you is to be persistent. It teaches you that, okay, I will keep trying. I will keep trying in what I'm doing. Even if I keep doing mistakes, even if I keep failing, I will keep trying.
Words of a fierce competitor. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Moncton.
Before we leave you today, a final story to put a smile on your face. Have a look at this. Kids are usually easy to entertain, but when a dog and Bubbles are involved, you just can't go wrong. This baby's laugh is the absolute best. The little guy getting a big kick out of his bubble-biting dog.
Something about those Bubbles, they always get kids. And then you add a dog, you can't go wrong.
And even as adults, I don't mind some Bubbles. Come on.
I've never been sad looking at Bubbles.
Right?
But the good news is today, no bubbles in the sky, but maybe a little bit of rain. So if you're spending time outdoors, you'll need the rain gear. The wind, honestly, though, is the bigger challenge as opposed to just the amount of rain that we are getting as we head throughout the afternoon. Some light showers making their way across southern Ontario as we see bands of active weather impacting us throughout the day. Temperature-wise, though, it really is quite mild. We're sitting at 5 degrees here, but that westerly wind, those gusts are upwards of 60 kilometers an hour throughout the day. We are very seasonal today. We dip a little below tomorrow, Thursday almost identical, and then we start to see the chance of flurries. The best chance for us here in the GTA, the downtown core, is between Friday and Sunday. Will you need the shovel? No, but just be prepared so you're not scared.
Good advice. Thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.